in terms of monetary gain, in terms of media, in terms of just America being America, Elvis Presley was given credit, and he deserved the credit, but commercially, yes. Because what about all the artists that came out on those stations down at the end of the dial that made records that you didn't hear on the pop stations? What about those artists that were great, and that when you saw them at the Apollo, you know there was no way an Elvis Presley or Bill Haley in the Comets could outdo these artists in performance at performance levels. You knew that the black artists were just pushed away and not accepted, and well, some people just have this mentality of that's the way it is. That's the way it is, you know. And it was not an awareness factor. There was not awareness factor. And I think the '60s, that's when the period came when the awareness came of what was really happening to our artists back then.
Well, the reason that you might be having a problem with that is because you're thinking just an opposite of, let's say, a white person who labeled that music race music to separate it. Now, what Elvis and Bill Haley and the Comets did was take that same music, transform it into their style, but we all knew where they got it from. Mm-hmm. What they did with our race music was to commercialize it. Mm-hmm. This is what we owe them, you know, the commercialization of our music, because our people could not get it commercialized in those days.
We didn't have the finances, and the American way is to take and just make, take and
well,
make.
Well, this is a capitalistic country, you know. It's you know, everyone is equal. If you can make the same money, that's fine. If not, you know, that's just too bad. You know, whoever's best is best. What Elvis and his organization and et cetera, did was take this good music and let the world know about it. You know, we ourselves as a people could not do it ourselves. So therefore our white counterparts helped us. Okay. You know, let the world know what we had to say musically. Yeah. And this is jumping the gun a little bit, but the most popular music on this planet is rock and roll music. Yeah. But coming back to your problem, I understand.
Well, given today's music, even today's music, I see it as
it was the era of naivety. I think we said earlier this afternoon, you know, how 90% of the artists who initiated rock and roll did it just for the glory, you know, which was in those days quite romantic, you know. Like the comedian Eddie Murphy said, hey, you know, a singer, hey, if you could sing, you get all the girls you want.
Now, tell me about yourself. We're going to discuss about Frankie and the Teenagers, but I want to discuss about you and how you started with, well, how it evolved from the time you first started even singing with the Harlem Airs, and
we were called the Harlem Air Juniors.
Okay. The Harlem Air Juniors.
Right. What had happened was we stopped going to church because my mother and father had separated about 2 years later. Mm-hmm. So we had a broken home, unquote, which happens a lot today than then. And those days, but nevertheless, it does happen. So during that period, not being instructed, I just lost interest totally. Mm-hmm. But Frankie was undaunted. You know. He was ahead of his time, and he kept it up. In the meantime, my oldest brother Howard, he pursued it his way. He had what they call a trio or a quartet. But prior to that, my brother and my oldest brother Howard did perform together on Channel 13. I think the date was in 1963, I think, called Spotlight on Harlem, with Ralph Cooper, who incidentally said the amateur hour at the Apollo Theater today. And but Frankie hung loose after that, you know. Howard went his separate ways because the group started with.
Now, how talented was Howard?
Well, Howard was very talented in a lot of ways. He could sing, and he was very creative as far as writing music. He played the sax well. And professionally speaking, if he hadn't graduated from high school, God bless his soul, he was up for draft for the National League.
Wow.
First base. Right. My brothers, they were all talented. In more ways than one. But Frankie, he spearheaded the family after my father left. As a matter of fact, he was the first one to get a job in the family.
How old was he when he got?
He was, Frankie was 9 then. Right.
So he was out there.
Right. I mean, it was on the corner, but he was out there. You know, my mother needed to help him.
He had to take over.
You know, sometimes the oldest is not the one that God wants to spearhead the family.
That's true.
You know, Frankie was chosen to have that get up and go and let's go and get it. So he spearheaded that. As a matter of fact, he was going to nightclubs at the age of 10.
Really?
There was a neighbor's daughter he was friends with, and her mother was an exotic dancer.
Oh, wow.
It's called Tanya Jones, as a matter of fact.
Tanya Jones.
Any relation?
No, not really.
You sure?
It sounds close to my daughter's name, Tawana.
At any rate, this went on for a period, and I guess he caught on very fast, you know. He hung in there. And as far as the teenagers were concerned, that's a strange story because he wasn't an original member of that.
I hear it was Herman's group.
Well, Herman was the lead singer.
Okay, Herman was the lead singer.
Yeah. But I guess you could call it Herman's group, because him and Jimmy got together.
So those two were
I would say that Jimmy Merchant and Herman Santiago were responsible for forming the teenagers. But they weren't called the teenagers then. I think they were called the Chesterfields, if I'm not wrong.
Or the Premiers or something like that?
I think it was close to Chesterfield.
Now, where did Sherman come with that?
Well, I don't know the history of the formation of the teenagers. All I know is that Frankie was the last member.
Okay.
I think he took someone's place, or they needed someone at the spare of the moment. I don't know how it goes. I think